Hey everybody, it's Ricky Heller from rickyheller.com here, and happy holidays. We're right in the middle of the holiday season now, so I wanted to pop in with some tips for you for sticking with your special diet during the holidays. And as you can see, I have my tree ornament earrings on. I decided to pull these out just for you guys today. Woot woot, and then they'll go straight from my ears onto the tree. Hope it's not too distracting. So, okay, today I have four of my top tips for dealing with a special diet, sticking with your special diet through the holiday season, because it can be, let's face it, a tough time if you're on a restricted diet and you're going to parties and you're going to people's houses and people are serving you food that you know you shouldn't eat. How do you stick with it? So I wanted to talk about some of my favorites, and these are tips that I talk about a lot more in the Food Freedom course. I had a webinar last week where I really delved into this in detail, but I think these are some of my top tips that can be really useful when you're trying to stick with it. So the first one, I'm going to call it switch it up. And by that, I mean not what you might think. Let me give you a little example. I was at the grocery store last week and I was at the checkout, and this woman came over to me and started chatting with me. And I looked at her, excuse me, I looked at her and I recognized her face. I knew who she was, but I couldn't quite place her. So we're chatting and I'm being polite and I couldn't remember her name, whatever. And then suddenly, about 5 minutes into the conversation, I remembered that she's one of the women that I meet in the evenings when I'm walking my two dogs. Why didn't I recognize her? Because context is everything. So she wasn't in the context I expected her to be in on the street while I was with my dogs. We were in the grocery store. And your brain can play those kinds of tricks on you. I would say this is a great principle to apply to the holidays. If you can switch up the context of where you'll be eating, then a lot of those habitual behaviors, reaching for that particular food or drinking that particular drink, will be bypassed because your brain will not be in that same mode. So if you're going out to restaurants, let's say you have parties and you go to particular places every year, maybe try a different location. Suggest to your friends that you try a different restaurant this year. It's a little bit more difficult to accomplish this if you're at home, but if you can, switch up things at home too. Maybe host your dinner in a different room, or even something as simple as using a different tablecloth on the table so the colors and the decor are different from what you're accustomed to. That is going to interfere with the habitual response, and you may find that you're able to behave in ways that are different this year. You're starting a new tradition. And you can tell your family and friends that too. Hey, I'm on a different diet for my health this year. I want to start some new traditions at the holidays. Let's serve this instead of this. Let's try eating buffet style instead of sitting down at the table. Anything that can switch it up, that can make a huge, huge difference. The second tip is, number two, is take two. And by this I mean, when you go, let's say you're invited to someone's house for dinner over the holiday period, or you're invited to a party at somebody's home, always bring two dishes. You can, I always offer to bring something, and usually people are very happy if they know that you're on a special diet for you to bring something. So I do two things when I bring my dishes. I always bring two, one savory and one sweet. And ideally, you want to bring enough to serve everybody there. And if it's a big party or if it's a buffet, enough for, let's say, 8 to 10 people to enjoy as well. The reason for this is so that you can comply with your special diet throughout the whole evening, and you never have to worry that you'll be obliged to eat something that you don't want to, or that you'll be the only person not eating at any point. So if people are serving appetizers and hors d'oeuvres, I take a little bit of my savory on a small plate, and I walk around with that as I munch on that. Then I'm part of the crowd. As people are eating the main course, obviously you'll be able to eat your savory as well. And then when it comes to dessert time, you can have your dessert too. And the beauty of bringing a dessert particularly with you is that people love dessert and people will probably want to try it. And once they do, they'll be thrilled with it. And so you can eat what you know is good for your body, and you can also help introduce some of these healthy foods to other people. So taking two is a great way to accomplish that as well. And then the third one is probably my favorite tip, and anybody who's been following me for a while knows, I may have heard this one, But this is really what I use that keeps me on the right path when I'm feeling like I want to slip. And it has evolved into a completely habitual situation where I never feel tempted by sweet things anymore. And I mean that quite sincerely. If somebody offers me something that I know isn't part of my diet, it does not tempt me. How do I do that? It's the principle of no is easier than maybe. So again, what do I mean by this? Well, I was in the grocery store a couple of weeks ago, and another grocery store. And no, I don't spend my entire life in the grocery store, but obviously a lot of important things happen to me there. So I was there, and I, just sort of people watching, and there was a mother with a young son who was screaming about wanting a chocolate bar. You said I could have a chocolate bar, and was so upset about this. And it occurred to me the mom had said, maybe you could have a chocolate bar. She didn't say yes. Oh, there goes our holiday cheer. We'll take this one off too. So the mom had said, maybe you could have a chocolate bar. She hadn't said, yes, you could have a chocolate bar. And what happens, particularly you see this in effect with kids, is that if you say maybe, that opens up a whole world of possibilities, which in their mind means yes. And the same thing happens when you're trying to deal with your own restrictions. When I was on an anti-candida diet initially, and I knew that I could not have anything sweet whatsoever, it was just a no. The answer was no. So that took the decision making away from me and made it so much easier for me to just say no. But as I started reintroducing some of these foods months later, particularly sweeteners, when I started first using coconut sugar, coconut nectar, for instance, I had the choice. I could have some or not have some. And then I could have another piece after I had some or not have another piece after I had some. And what happens there is very quickly you go from nothing to way too much. So I find for me, if the answer is no, that just makes it easier. It's sort of like the principle of illegal drugs for me. I always say crack cocaine, I could be at a party, I could have people offer me crack cocaine for free, and everybody in the room is taking their crack cocaine, and it's just going to be a no. I don't even have to think about it. That does not tempt me in the least. And so I have now put sugar, refined sugar, into that same category in my mind. If it has refined sugar, it's a no. I don't even have to think about it, which makes my life so much easier. It's the things that I'm allowed to eat that make me have to decide, do I have it, don't I have it? Those are the things that can be a little more difficult. So if you choose your no foods, you may already know what they are because they're foods to which you react, or foods that you're allergic to, or foods that are on an anti-candida diet and you're not allowed to have them. Choose your no foods and then just tell yourself they are an absolute no. There is no leeway. There's no deciding a little bit, just no. And that makes life a lot easier, I find, when you're trying to avoid certain foods. And then the final tip is enjoy the non-food aspects of the holidays, because really, 5 years from now, are you going to remember exactly which cookies you ate or which kind of drink you had at that party? No. You're going to remember the people you were chatting with and the time, the experience that you had and the way you felt and all of the other aspects of the party that were not connected to food, but were connected to an experience within that you hold as a memory. So the food, you may need to remind yourself of this, but the food is not the most important part. And there's a great quote, as long as you're eating food that is good for you, this isn't a quote, but as long as you're eating the food that's good for you, you have some food. It doesn't have to be the same food for you to enjoy yourself. And there's a great quote, I think, that encapsulates that idea from Andrew Weil, who is the adorable alternative doctor who many of us know and love, and I will put some links to him below as well. But he says that when food is blessed by being shared, by being eaten in fellowship, amidst conversation and laughter, all food is health food. And I love that quote because basically what he's saying is the food's not the most important part of it. And alternately, on times when you're healthy and you have stable health, even if you eat a little bit of something that may not be the healthiest, if you counterbalance that with a positive mindset and feeling good, then the food will not have the usual negative effect. So that's something perhaps for during the holidays as well, to keep that positive outlook. And remember that it's the people, it's the way you feel, that's the most important part of the holidays. So just quickly to recap, I talked about switching up the context, bringing two kinds of food with you, savory and sweet, and remembering that no is easier than maybe, and also remembering what's most important at the holiday season. What are you going to remember 5 years from now? Is it the food, or is it the people and the events and the events that you attended? So I hope that that helps. If you're looking for more support ongoing through the holidays and through the whole year, you might be interested in my Sweet Life Health Club, which is where we have group support, a private Facebook group with some amazing people in there who support each other. And I'm also on a live call once a month where there's a Q&A with all the people in the club, so you can get your questions asked directly from me, and you get recipes for your special diet and other information. I will put a link up there. And if you're watching this on my blog, I'll put a link down below so you can check it out, because that's something that is ongoing throughout the year. And it's not as if we stop our special diet at the holidays and then go back to eating in a way that's unhealthy. So this is something that you need to keep in mind throughout the whole year. So I wish you all a great holiday season. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you again next time. Take care, everybody.